I just remember you had no recollection of how to actually pilot the Pelican, and as soon as you get control of it, it just went. It just dropped. It just dropped like a rock.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters. This is a weekly podcast where we talk all things movies, TV shows, video games, and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Reagan, as ever, and I'm joined once again by my delightful co-host. It's Dan.
Hello, you ravenous grunt.
You've called us that before, I'm pretty sure. I feel like that's like the go-to one with someone like me.
I mean, it was the top of the head kind of thing.
And to think, I called you delightful, and instead you call me a grunt.
Are grunts not delightful?
No, they are just annoying.
I mean,
are you saying that I'm annoying?
I mean, in this particular episode, there are definitely those things, and they do look quite hideous, admittedly.
Yeah, we'll get.
Not that I'm referring to you as being hideous, but you know.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to the design of the grunts in this, obviously. As you can tell from the title, we are returning to the Halo franchise with Halo 4, which has been, I think it's the one I've been looking forward to the most, to be honest, because I like talking about Halo 4.
Yeah, me too, actually, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Oh, well, then that's all right, then. Then at least this isn't going to be an awkward episode where it's just me talking and you're just like, Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, never
Talking
mind.
about some Hafolo.
Yes, we are talking about Hafolo, whereas last week we were talking about Assassin's Creed 4.
No.
I tried there. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, which was fun, until Dan ruined it by adding a load of numbers and letters and stuff. Again. Forcins. Forsassins. Anyway, yes, talking about Halo 4, we are getting ever closer to the end of our Halo series retrospective thing we've been doing. I'm not going to lie, I still don't know if we are actually going to talk about Halo 5 yet. I might just scrap that because, first of all, Dan would have to play it. He'd also have to pay extortionate amounts for it, and he also can't play it, as it turns out.
Yeah, the only Halo game that I could play are obviously the ones we've talked about, and Infinite. Guardians is nowhere to be seen.
Which is pretty much preferable at this point anyway.
It's preferable, is it? Right.
Yeah. But yes, anyway, talking about Halo 4, I've been a bit of a defender for this from like the moments I played it. Like, I know there's people who do really dislike it. I know there's people who are like, well, it's not Bungie, therefore it's bad. I'm like, Destiny 2.
That's not a bad thing. Like,
they're both crap. But I have defended this game a lot because I do kind of love it. Like, yeah, I know there's bits that are a bit naff. I think the AI for the Covenants is a bit rubbish this go around. The Didact could be a slightly better villain in that he could be introduced maybe slightly earlier than 7 minutes before he dies, ish. Or at least it feels like it's 7 minutes. Like, oh look, he's there.
Yeah.
You
know, I kind of feel the same way about the Didact. I mean, it's a cool villain and all, but it's kind of just very late in game when you actually like, oh, this is the villain. It's not just a giant ball anymore.
Oh yes, yeah. I actually completely forgot about the Didact's football.
Yeah, because it's like the moment you land on the Promethean planet, there's just a giant ball.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
You
and
just
then,
sort of left it.
Apparently this ball then flowers, and then out comes this decrepit-looking librarian.
Is the librarian? I actually... anyway, we'll get to the villain stuff in a bit. but yeah, I think for me, this one still works really well. Like story wise, I actually cared a lot more, especially like from a human perspective. Because while yeah, you play as the Master Chief, it's not really his story, and we'll get to that. And it's also got, I think, my favorite score of the entire franchise as well. I know it doesn't have the main theme until like 3/4 of the way through for about 7 seconds. Don't care. I still love the score. And yeah, I'm very much in the minority for thinking it's probably my favorite of the entire series, like the game itself.
Yeah, you know that's a really tough decision for me because I mean I've expressed my love for Halo Reach and Halo 3.
You have.
But you know what it is? Like every time I play 4, it kind of just starts overtaking one or two, maybe even both of them at times, to be honest, because when I play it, I kind of forget how good it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, particularly, I mean, graphically, it's tremendous. And, well, just story-wise as well. As you see, it's not a Master Chief story, it's totally the opposite, to be honest, which is why I kind of see why people don't like it, but to me, that doesn't really bother me. I've played enough Halo games where Master Chief is the plot, you know? So, I do have quite a lot of love for this game.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the way this game developed, I mean, it was clear that they did want to go in a different direction, even though they kind of went...
Yeah, because didn't we say, like, the last time we spoke about a Master Chief one, that you can only do a Master Chief story so many times before it just becomes, like, totally rinse and repeat.
Well, exactly. You know, you've had enough games playing as him, and he's just a composite character. But now we're in a different generation of gaming, and like narrative world building and character writing. You kind of have to do something different. And yeah, Chief talks a lot in this. Like he feels like an actual person, and that's something that the developers really wanted to go with.
Yeah, he does feel like an actual person. It's not just a POV anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And even back when the game was announced, back in, I think it was in 2011 at E3, you know, back when E3 was still a thing, which I don't think it is anymore. I'm pretty sure they've just canned it entirely this year, which is probably a good thing because it got cringy at times. But, you know, it was clear from the outset the 343 Industries, who was set up after Bungie left, I think it was in 2010, they were dead set on, okay, we're going to do another Halo trilogy, then just series. You know, they decided, no, we're not going to stick to 3 games, we'll do more. They very much wanted to go in a different direction. They even had a tie-in kind of TV film, which I don't know if you saw. It was called Halo 4 Forward Unto Dawn. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
I did.
Yes.
I mean, look, it ain't good, to be honest.
It's fine. Like, it's just, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I feel really bad for the fact that one of the characters in this, she's played by, I want to say it's Anna Popplewell. I only know her as Susan from the Chronicles of Narnia, and it's really bad anytime I see her in anything else. I'm like, I'm just picturing you with just like a bow and arrow and a weird horn thing. Like, you are not fit to be fighting aliens. Yeah, it was fine. It has Chief in it. And yeah, and then of course the game released in 2012. Original reception was extremely positive. Like I always go back to IGN's video review of Halo 4, and back when the dislike count was on YouTube, the dislike count was extremely high on that because they gave it a 9.8 out of 10, and they did call it the best Halo game ever. And people were like,
I bet that rattled some cages. Then.
Oh, it did. Well, I mean, even me saying it's probably my favourite is probably rattling some feathers as well.
Oh, no, you're going to just rattle the keyboard warriors now.
Literally. I mean, commercially, it made $300 million in its first week of release, so the highest of the franchise. And then over 1 million people played the online mode as well within the first 24 hours. That was, I mean, this is 2012, so it's obviously not this kind of period of gaming, but that was still really high. That being said, the numbers on the multiplayer did dwindle pretty quickly, but you know, we'll get to that. So obviously, as the principal characters, of course, we have Master Chief leading the story once again, and is very much human.
I will say before you jump into characters,
oh yes,
that when the game was released, I didn't get it like as a pre-order. I don't think I did anyway, but anyway, when I got the game, this was back on 360. Now, bearing in mind, I had like one of the older 360 models, so you had the
The loud
interchangeable
one.
hard drive. Because Halo 4 was such a big game for a 360, I actually had to install Halo 4 on a separate hard drive.
Wow. I mean, I can remember it being a thing where you had to install it from 2 discs, which I find is hilarious.
Yes.
Because I can remember
Yeah.
because I know the Grand Theft Auto 5 did that a year after. I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't pre-order this. I mean, I think I'm more nostalgic for Halo 4 than anything else because it was my first new Halo game. And I'm pretty sure I got it either for my birthday or Christmas. It was only like a month
Yeah, it
after
was
its
one of the
release.
two for me as well. I do not have any recollection of pre-ordering it, but yeah, I had to get like a second like Xbox 360 hard drive, and if I wanted to play Halo 4, I'd have to switch it out because it just would not fit in that
Yeah.
very tiny hard drive on 360 anyway, so I had to have a separate hard drive just for Halo 4 because it was that big on 360.
It's absolutely mental, to be honest. It really is.
It is.
But yes, so as I say, we're focusing on the Master Chief and his decidedly higher percentage of humanity compared to the previous games. But more specifically, it focuses on his connection with the AI Cortana. And in many ways, yeah, Chief is the playable character. Cortana is the main character. That's absolutely her story. And
Yeah.
I just love that, to be honest, because I'd had
No,
enough
I
of her
do
just
too, to be
being
honest.
like a side character here. She absolutely comes into her own, and I really
Yeah.
like that.
See, I was always in the opinion that she was just sort of there to guide you along, but with this one, it actually feels like she's got some actual purpose in this story.
Well, I mean, taking out the really stupid and confusing opening with Dr. Halsey and the interrogation thing, which I still don't understand. It also breaks its own rules in that, where it has like, I think it's supposed to have Master Chief at one point getting Cortana in his new armor, and then you've got Spartans fighting the Covenants with the new armor, but it's supposed to be a flashback, and then you've got Chief fighting a brute with the new armor, and I'm sat there thinking,
You're not really cementing the idea that this is in the past. This isn't the
yeah,
this is
exactly.
now.
But otherwise, like the opening on the forward Unto Dawn after it's, hit a rock or something, it's just floating around. It opens with Cortana, and I really like that. And one of the things I like is I mean, going into the behind the scenes of this, one of the writers for the game talked about how when they were developing the story, his mother had been diagnosed with dementia. So
Right.
across the entire production side of things, he watched like his mother just deteriorate and deteriorate to the point that she really wasn't who she usually was. So that had a lot of inspiration for Cortana with her rampancy, which I don't know if that was a thing before this game. I don't ever recall it being a thing, but essentially,
No, I don't think it ever was.
yeah. But I like it as an idea because, it kind of depowers AI just a little bit because they are kind of OP for the most part. And in this case, AIs deteriorate after, I think it's 7 years, and Cortana's been in service for 8, despite being on low power for 4 years. And I really like how that's implemented in the story. Like, it's not just suddenly spoken about. It's not just, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to die at the end of this game. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't do what the Didact does in like the last like however many minutes of the game. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm dying.
yeah.
It's actually quite early on, I think, because Chief starts to notice it when she starts like phasing in and out of the like holo projector and stuff, and then she reveals that she's essentially kicking the bucket really.
Well, exactly. I mean, I can remember playing this for the first time and hearing that, and I was sat there thinking, they're not going to kill her. Like 343 wouldn't take their first Halo game and be like, right, we're gonna have to do a Game of Thrones.
Right.
We're gonna have to kill a couple of characters. Cause quite frankly, I'm sick of them. But not even then, I thought to myself, there's no way you're gonna kill her. And well, spoilers, obviously, they do until the next game, which we might not have to talk about, so it'll be fine. But yeah, it's a far more emotional story than like we're used to. Like, I do legitimately care, and I think it is the greatest strength of Halo 4 that really sets it apart from all the other games in the series, is that you actually care. And you're not just like caring to like blow up the next thing. You actually care about the lead characters as well, which is something I couldn't really
Yeah, you actually
say.
care about the progression of the story and stuff like that. Whereas like the other ones, you just run and gun really without any thought. With this, it's like, oh, this is actually really neat.
Yeah. I'm also in the minority for really loving Chief's redesigned armor. Like it just.
Oh, me too. I think it looks badass.
I just love it so much, and it's one of those things where I'm kind of annoyed that it only got used in this and in Halo 5, and then the Halo Infinite version is kind of like, well, it's essentially the original one again.
But just revamped graphically.
Yeah, I mean a little bit, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the really saturated orange visor for one. I think that looks really cool. I mean, I know it's supposed to be more in line with the Spartan 4 kind of stuff that they introduce in this game, like the next generation of Spartans, so it's a little bit more simplified. Though it is quite funny when you see like towards the end and he's like taking the armor off as part of, like the final cutscene thing. He does look quite skinny for someone who should be like a Spartan too. I mean, I know he's been in like hypersleep for 4 years or something.
It's like all of his suit just has like a load of like foam padding in it, just make him look buff.
All of a sudden it makes me think of I know you haven't watched it yet, and you will. There's this.
Oh, will I now?
Yeah. In The Boys on Amazon Prime, there's like the lead superhero in that's called Homelander, not Superman. There's a ton of jokes about his suit, and there's a moment I think it's in season 3 where they really pay off a joke about if it's padding or not. And it just makes me think of that. Yeah, I think armor wise, I think it's absolutely spot on. I think I mean everyone looks really great in this anyway. I mean just like graphically, but we'll get to that later. But I think as well, I think Steve Downes and Jen Taylor, voices for Chief and Cortana, they're just given more to do in this one compared to anything else.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, well, as I say, like it just feels like they actually have a bigger purpose.
Mm-hmm. I didn't actually realize until when I was looking at behind the scenes, this was the first time that both of them had recorded lines together.
And it rather
always
than like individually.
Yeah, I mean that's like a normal thing for a lot of things. Like even when Big Finish do like the Doctor Who audio dramas and stuff, it's always like one person at a time. And I suppose other movies as well that do voiceover stuff, they just do it like one person at a time. This time they deliberately had them both together to get a better sort of like rapport with the two of them, and it's baffling they hadn't done that yet, because it just feels like the obvious thing to do.
I would have thought they would have done it for like every single game that those two characters have been in.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird.
It'd make more sense.
But yeah, I mean, it really works, and I think bar some stuff in Halo Infinite, this is easily the best of the Chief as well. Like especially towards the end, that just it actually gets me at times. I mean,
I must say, like, I'm just having flashbacks to, like, I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but oh my god, the nightmare that we had playing that game was just.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the multiplayer bit, because I like how on this like video game kind of structured document, it's like mention multiplayer if it's warranted. Oh boy, is it warranted on this one? Like. We could have an entire episode just dedicated to the nightmare of COVID Halo 4 legendary playthroughs. We'll get to that. We are hinting at it, so listen to the rest of this, obviously. So I mean, like beyond the rampancy subplot, we've got the return of the Forerunners for the first time in the series as like actually there, as opposed to just mysterious builders of weird architecture and stuff. So in this case, we've got the Didact, who I didn't realize his name, I think, until the very end, because I hadn't heard Cortana mention it just after like the mission when he's revealed. Which, to be honest, it's a really cool scene. I think it's really really sinister. I think
it is, yeah.
Even at that point, you kind of just sat there thinking, Okay, first of all, what is your deal? And two, why is your head pulsing the same way that like the clover creature does with the weird like sort of like air sac things?
See, I was thinking of like the monsters from A Quiet Place or the Demigorgons
Oh
from
Christ.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Like, with
And why
Just
the hell
reminded
is
me
your
of that a
teeth
bit.
just screwed up? Like why do you look like a little bucktooth thing?
the
Yeah, you know, you already actually looks like. Did you ever watch? I mean, I'm sure I've asked this before, but did you ever watch Primeval on ITV?
I mean, not like as a like series. I mean, I'd catch like the odd episode every now and again because sometimes it was actually on before Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it was in the third series. I think it was the third episode. I think it's the third episode. It is the third episode. I'm just lying as to how much I remember of Primeval. And there's little creatures in a hospital. I think they're called Diectodons or something. Like little,
Diectodons.
yeah, they're like a prehistoric beaver essentially, and the teeth is essentially what like the Didact looks like.
Right.
So I mean, currently I'm thinking of a bipedal version of a Diectodon, but in weird space armor.
Where it's just the
And it sounds
Didact one,
awesome.
but he has a beaver tail.
Maybe he does. I never saw. I
Maybe
never
he
saw the
does.
back of him. Funnily enough,
I know you always just see the front of him, so he could absolutely have a beaver tail.
yeah. My biggest issue with the Didact though is the fact that if you really want to know what his deal is, you have to go and look for all the stupid terminal things that are in every mission, and that tells you his backstory and why he's angry with like the whole of humanity, because the game itself doesn't actually really give you a reason to actually care as to why he wants to blow everything up beyond because that's what the script says.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's like he spends too much time in his stupid ball thing that I don't actually care when he does actually rock up. And it's like, oh, you have to fight him. Okay.
Well, he literally does though. Like half of the missions, he's just a giant ball in the sky.
I mean, yeah, it's imposing and it looks cool. But I'm trying to care about the little person that's in it.
I'm pretty sure that, I mean, the only times I really remember like hearing the word Didac was in that rather infuriating mission on Legendary where you have to fly the Pelican around and the Didac's just in the sky.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one. That one.
That one. Which is technically the first time you can actually legitimately fly a Pelican in a Halo game without the weird glitchy Easter egg thing in Reach. And it
Yeah.
feels rubbish. Like, it really, really does, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, the stuff with Didact is interesting enough, although I'm sure that he doesn't actually die at the end of this, and I think he pops up again in like a book that they released a couple of years later where he's still alive. And I'm like,
Oh, great. All Chief's work was for nothing.
yeah, exactly. All it took for him was to just press RB, then RT, then press X in the hope that it shoves a grenade in his chest and it might blow him up, or it'll blow yourself up. You're never really sure. It's
Oh
a
yeah, I
weird
forgot
kind of
about that
event.
whole like trigger scene thing. I don't even know what you call it, but it's just like it's like an action sequence. You basically press buttons in time to this, and then
I mean, it's
whatever
supposed to be
happens.
like a quick time event, but it's not really, to be honest, because it's
Yeah.
not like, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really care too much when he does actually eventually blow up, but then not blow up. It depends on how you look at it. Obviously, with the end of the story, you know, you blow up the Didact, you save the Earth, blah 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 blah. But Cortana technically dies, and that entire sequence I do kind of love. Like, I think it's.
Yeah, it's quite heartfelt.
I mean, look, me playing it back in 2012, I was actually tearing up. Bearing in mind, I'm in my mid-bloody teens. I don't usually care about this sort of thing, and here I am, legitimately worried that they are actually going to kill her.
Don't really care much about anything bar video games, and you know, losing Cortana in a video game is just next level upsetting.
I mean, yeah, it was a little bit, but it's because it actually felt quite final. I thought, as an ending to this game, that's really dark, and I think that's really cool. And
Yeah, it doesn't end like your happy dappy Halo game like they always do. Well, bar Reach actually. Reach is fairly dark as well, actually.
yeah, I mean, like, it ends on a head. literally.
But like, you know, the other ones, like Master Chief, like blows up whatever ring, and then he just flies off and does the same thing again in another game, perhaps.
Oh, exactly. You know, it feels legitimately different. I mean, I like it less because I know what happens next, and it's just baffling. But I can still look at it now and still appreciate it for what it is, and that the writers are actually trying to do it,
Yeah.
to do it well and do it different. As we mentioned before, I think graphically the game's absolutely gorgeous. Like, it still works. I mean, it still looks really good for a game that's 11 years old, which is kind of scary
It does.
to
It
even
still looks
say.
really, really nice.
Yeah. Like, especially when they ported it over to the Master Chief Collection and then put it up to 60 frames per second, I'm like, this is nice. I really like this. I didn't realize I needed it like this. But overall, it just looks really, really great. As does the planet itself. You're on Requiem for this, for like the most part. And I do really, really like it as a design. And especially I guess the second mission when you're introduced to Red to Requiem, like on foot, and there's a deliberate homage to the original game when you come out of the caves, and then suddenly there's some Forerunner architecture in the background just going like up and down, and it looks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can remember getting goosebumps at that, just like, damn it. I still do when I can play that every now and
Yeah.
again, and that could be the score as well doing it, but it just works really well to sort of like lend a tone and a feel, which is something that Halo 5 just decided it wasn't going to do. Maybe I'll just slate that game constantly in this instead. Because I don't think I want to talk about Halo 5. As it turns out, we might actually have to scrap it and do something else.
I mean, from the sounds of it, there's clearly better things to talk about.
Yeah, I'd rather talk about, Christ, anything. Sweet wrappers or something, I don't even know.
Wix Roberts.
I don't know.
It's a very random thing to talk about.
Very,
I was
very
expecting,
random.
like, like Halo Infinite or something. No, Twix wrappers.
Well, no, we are going to talk about Infinite in December, so it's fine. Spoilers for in 2 months. Now, obviously, we're going into presentation as well. I think, as I've already mentioned, you've got the score. Gon and Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore. This time we've got Neil Davidge, with a bit of assistance from Kazuma Junichi. Said his name a lot. Listened to his score a lot. It's just easy to remember his name now. As I said, the classic theme is used briefly when it kind of hints at it's a Halo, where it's like, oh, we're at a Halo. Oh, we're gonna go over here. I love that. I love that as a misdirect. Though it's like, oh, we're actually going to a ring. No, we're gonna go over here. It's like,
We're going to go over here now.
all right then. I'm fine with that. I'm getting sick of being on those stupid rings. Like, I feel like at that point, if Halo 4 was any more self-aware, I would have liked to have seen Chief just sigh and just drop his head at the sight of another Halo. Just like,
Another ring.
just like, why? Just give me rampancy instead.
Another ring, another prophet, another invasion.
Exactly. But yeah, I think the score overall for Halo 4 is just really underrated. And I'm sure you've mentioned it before as well. I think even when we spoke about the score for ODST, I think you mentioned the Halo 4 score being a highlight for you.
Oh, definitely. I think the 4 scores me probably the favorite out of all of them so far. Because it's just brilliant. Like everything you play, like it just feels very in time with what's actually going on. I mean, the misdirect is probably one of my favorite bits as well, because I just love that so much. It's like, oh, here's a Halo ring, but we're going over here.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you wanted this. No, you didn't.
Can't really remember the title tracks and stuff like that, but basically when you do the last mission, I really like the score on the last mission, because it just feels very like actiony, you know.
Yeah,
You're just
there's-
storming through waves and waves of Prometheans
Yeah, I can
to
remember.
reach the giant cylinder Forerunner,
Yeah, thing. I mean,
spherical Forerunner.
I can definitely remember a lot of the tracks. Like, there's Green and Blue, which is the final track for when Chief and Cortana say their final goodbye. I love that.
I
as a
love how
name,
he
that's
did
great.
that in like quotation
Yeah,
marks. Final.
goodbye, because it's not. When Didact first rocks up is Revival. I like that one. I forget it's the music that plays when it's in the first mission when you get outside the ship and you're having to put all the rockets back together and stuff. It's the same music that played in the first teaser for Halo 4, and I've always loved how like bombastic and badass it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like the entire score's like that, because it's not. It's quite experimental.
It's made up of different parts, which is what I like about a score like this, because it's not just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
actually feels different.
And that, you know, again, going back to that, that's something I really appreciate with the game. Like, overall, is that it is deliberately different, even though there is
Like even the
some things
I mean,
that
I
are...
couldn't tell you what mission it is, but there's basically a part where you go through whatever area, but it's like a sort of foresty area, and then you go into like caves and stuff like that. It's very atmospheric at times.
Yeah, definitely. Gameplay wise, I mean, controls are pretty much the same as the previous ones, although it feels a little bit more fluid. I think this is, you know, going again, it's probably close to Infinite for being my favorite feeling game in the series. I also really appreciate the fact that sprint is just a standard now. It's not a stupid armor ability.
I've never liked the fact that it's just like an armor ability, or you have to like hold down a certain. But I just like it how like every other game, when you have a first-person shooter, it's always the stick to run. Mm-hmm. It makes sense to have it in Halo. I've never liked the armor ability thing. I was so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, they are in this, but and they are kind of pointless. Like, it's weird because I think 343 were deliberately trying to make the game feel more balanced with having them in, but it did the same thing that it did with Reach, where it completely negates the whole point of the actual game itself.
I mean, to be honest, the armor abilities are only really useful like 3 out of 5 times, I'm gonna say, because some of them are just so like, I think like there's one called Sentry or something like that, which summons like a little Promethean sentry turret, which is pretty useful, but other than that, I don't think there's any, well, active camouflage as well, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got like Call of Duty style perks, which I hate. Like, one of them is literally, it gives you the ability to pick up grenades from a corpse, which you could already do.
Yeah, you could already do that anyway.
And then
like,
suddenly
you
it's
get
put
double them.
behind a wall for some reason. Like, and then you can also customize weapon skins as well. And I'm like, no.
No, that feels very like Call of Duty, like, which I've never bothered doing. I've always just left them default.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, they even have bloody loadouts, which is fine for Call of Duty because there's about 407 weapons to choose from. Here, there's like
407.
not even
Well,
20.
Especially because
Yeah,
there's not, and I think there's like 5 loadouts from you can customize from what I remember. Mm-hmm. But it just, like, as you say, you're pretty limited as to like how many weapons are out in the game.
Yeah.
So if you give everybody the option to use a heavy weapon, everybody would just use an incineration cannon because it's the most OP weapon in the game.
I hate the incineration cannon.
I mean, I've got stuff to say when we talk about the multiplayer stuff because I'm just giggling now thinking about it.
I've got a few things I can mention. In fact, you know what? We will get to the multiplayer now, because I mean, first of all, this was the first game I ever played online because I didn't have Xbox Live. I mean, I got this game in 2012, and then Christmas came around and stuff like that. I wasn't allowed Xbox Live back then, and it was extremely difficult to rank up. Like, there was nothing to do, so I ended up having a long conversation with my mum, and I was like, look. If I pay for it, can I please go and get Xbox Live, because I can't do anything else on this game? He's like, okay. I was like, so my first experience on like PvP stuff was with Halo 4, and I was just out of my depth. I'm still crap at it. I mean, I spent all the time on like Flood and SWAT and nothing more. Maybe a lot of Dominion and Ricochet when that eventually popped up. That was so stupid.
I mean, when I first played it, I mean, the multiplayer side of it was just sort of, I think, the newer game modes that like all the other Halo games didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Flood was definitely one of them because Flood was just totally revamped, and it actually
Yeah.
felt purposeful. Like, you know, I mean, Halo Reach's answer to that is that it tinted your armor green. It was like, wow, you're a Flood now, woohoo! No, in Halo 4, you're actually a Flood.
Yeah,
you look
exactly.
like a Flood.
And I do actually really like the flood mode. But I've got, I mean, some of my favourite multiplayer moments, just in general, not just for Halo, but just in general, come from Halo 4. There's one specifically. It's on the map Ravine. I remember playing it with my friends Jordan and Callum. Just going back and forth. I think it was in I can't remember. I think it was just in just like a Forge sort of like map thing anyway. And we just start attacking each other because of course we do because we're teenagers.
But yeah, it's just standard, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure Jordan had an incineration cannon and blew up Callum, which is fine. You know, that's like funny on its own. What gets even funnier is the fact that I'm driving around in a Warthog, just minding my own business. Just, who just pops up immediately in front of us? Callum. And to this day, we all agreed, first of all, I should have been bloody recording it, because I didn't, so there's no evidence of it beyond me telling you. But we all agreed that that was single-handedly the best instant spawn kill in the history of literally this entire planet. Because it would just never happen again. It's just clear the game thought, he's been killed by one friend, we will put him in like the crosshairs of the other one.
Yeah.
When he's just driving around. And I think it's safe to say it, Dan. Like, I had fun with like multiplayer on that side of things. And then that little COVID thing happened, and me having crappy internet, and then both of us agreeing to do legendary playthroughs of all the Halo games because neither of us have a job to go to.
Yeah.
Because
all I'll say is that the Halo 4 side of it was hilarious, but also infuriating as well.
Yeah, I don't know what was, because Halo 2, you know, we've already said was frustrating as hell. This one was just difficult for other reasons, and then you've got something like
it was difficult
ODST,
because
which
of
we didn't actually
technical
finish.
reasons. But I think that the one I have a very vivid, best memory of is the mission that I mentioned before when you have control of the Pelican. You've basically got to shut down like 2 tower generators or something like that. And I just remember you, obviously because you were the lead like person to host it. I just remember you had no recollection of how to actually pilot the Pelican, and as soon as you get control of it, it just went. It just dropped. It just dropped like a rock. I think Reagan, do you want me to fly? Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Please. Well, I think as well is the fact that because the internet was so diabolically slow, that like the latency was awful.
Oh,
like,
it was so bad.
Like I could literally picture the internet whenever I made a decision in the game. It just looks like the thinker. He's just sort of sat there, just like,
yeah.
Should I let him do it? I'm not quite sure. What do you think next or neighbour's internet, which is somehow quicker even though it's in a different building? It's like, all right then, I will let him drop the Pelican out of the sky. Because he still pressed the wrong button.
The part of the same mission, but when basically you go on the tower things and you have to go disable whatever it is you disabled on the gondola thing, and there's Prometheans just everywhere, and
they literally just sat there.
Temptation I had to fight. Well, it's not even I didn't even fight it in the end. It just happened in the end. When there was the night with the incineration cannon, I knew what I had to do. I knew what I had to do.
I'm sure there were so many instances where you accidentally sort of like tweaked the ad, looks like a little bit too far to the left, and you just blew us both up with it.
Yeah, because you know what it is. Like, it's such an overpowered weapon. Because for those who have played it, obviously it doesn't. If you imagine the fuel rod launcher, but that firing like 4 missiles at the same time rather than one, it is stupidly overpowered, and it is very, very dangerous in close quarters.
It was.
So yeah,
and it still is.
The incineration projectiles bounced back and killed us both numerous times.
I was about to say, let's reiterate, it happened a lot. No, all of a sudden, like, anytime I went back to the campaign and I'm sat there thinking, I suddenly appreciated just being me. Because there is about 70% less of a risk that I'm going to blow myself up with the bloody incineration cannon.
I think there was one part we've stuck on for quite a while, and I think it's the second part of that mission. Obviously, the game being the game, it decides to up the difficulty, so they give the knights like the stupidly overpowered weapons, like the well, obviously the incineration cannon, but that really, really annoying sniper rifle that just one shots you. It's basically the incineration cannon, but like sniper rifle edition. It is just ridiculous, and there's just some knight with a little stupid grin on his face every time he kills you.
Stupid grin on his face.
So I imagine he's got like a stupid little smirk on his face, like, yeah, saying, pointing to the other Prometheans, I did that.
Just like, who's me? Who's me? Otherwise, in terms of the multiplayer, I mean, yeah, because I'm crap at like PvP stuff, I just stuck to the simple stuff because it was easier. I did spend a lot of time on Forge in this. I don't know if I prefer it to Reach. It's a bit difficult to say because it was such a weird like version of Forge. What I do remember, there was two things. One, I can remember after watching, for some reason, The Five Doctors and deciding to do a map on Forge Islands when they eventually released that, so you could actually have a flat canvas for the first time in Forge history. And I just made a mock-up of the Death Zone with like the tower and everything. There's like a Dalek saucer that's flying overhead, and I put a teleporter in the corner, and it goes into like a mock-up version of the inside of a Dalek ship.
Yeah,
I can remember doing that. That took a lot of time.
Yeah, I bet.
But the other one, my favorite game mode, was a custom version called Rabid Tank.
Rabid Tank.
So it's a flood variant,
right?
Where you've got no weapons. Well, you've got pistols, but it's pointless. And there's one flood. There's only one. So it can't infect you. It kills you. The reason I say it's a Rabid Tank is because this flood form has a tank.
Oh.
And it's just a lot of hallways and corners and stuff with them just driving around looking for you. And
God.
And you've got the option to be on a mongoose if you're feeling brave, or you can do it on foot. Regardless, that tank is going to find you. And it was some of the most tense moments in infection history on that game. Like the amount of screaming, just like it's like you're going down the hallway, and he just pops up, and you're like, "Nah, I'm dead. I'm screwed."
Yeah,
now.
I can imagine just going down like one of the corridors and totally unaware there's just a tank there.
It's bad. It's very, very bad. That was probably, I mean, yeah, I do think it's my favorite version of Infection, and it's not official, obviously, because just trying to say, yeah, right, we're going to have a flood form, we're going to put him in a tank, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be absolutely fine. And
see, at least it didn't like become, well, it's probably a good thing it's unofficial, because they probably would have done what Halo 2 does, where that when you get to the flood levels, the flood have the ability to just like take over like vehicles for some reason. So they just sit in scorpions and stuff.
I actually forgot about that. I honestly just assumed that
I will never forget about them. Bloody scorpion flood and wraith flood.
Well, luckily Rabid Tank wasn't with a wraith, because I think it would have ended very, very quickly, because the tank would have just blown itself up.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But yeah, just like being chased down by a tank, being driven by a flood, especially if it was me mate Jordan, he would just deliberately not shoot you and just chase you. And I don't know if it was scarier.
I think it's scarier because you don't know if you're being chased. You don't know when he's going to shoot you.
Exactly. It honestly reminds
You're just waiting for it.
It reminds us of the scene in Deadpool with him on the Zamboni on the ice, and he's just chasing down the guy with the broken legs, just like really slowly. He's like, "And you're gonna die in 5 minutes." It's exactly like that. Just like, I might kill you in 5 minutes, or I might kill you in 5 seconds. I'm not going to tell you which. And look, I have seen some scary stuff in my time. We've already spoken about this, but my God. Not the tank.
Not the flood tank.
Not the flood tank.
Anything but the flood tank.
Anything about that. I mean, you know, as I say with the multiplayer, I've had a lot of fun with Halo 4 multiplayer over the years, especially in the custom stuff. Less so with the legendary campaign co-op playthrough nightmare mode. Like legendary
that's
didn't even
very
cut it.
pretty much the title of that entire COVID multiplayer side of it.
I mean, we could have done like any other co-op thing during COVID, and we chose to finish off the Halo games, and we didn't even finish them. We didn't finish them. We just skipped one because I thought, nah, can't do it. It's too difficult even for a third person. Though, I mean, talking about Halo 4 like as much as we are and reminiscing about it, and yeah, I do have issues like here and there with this. Yeah, I do still think this is probably my favorite one in the series, but it's weird because I completely acknowledge some criticisms, and I totally get that there's bits that even I don't like. Like, I think the ending misses the mark with the Didact. He's not a very interesting villain. He's introduced way too late. I mentioned at the beginning, like, I believe 343 Industries upped the quality of the graphics, but then dumbed down the AI to compensate, and I don't like that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really noticed the AI stuff because then again, I'm just usually running for my life, just praying that I don't get a plasma pistol stuck to my ass or something like that.
Well, as long as it isn't the weird Promethean version of that, I can't remember the scatter shot. No, actually, no, because that's the shotgun
pulse
thing.
grenades.
Well, even the pulse grenades are pointless. What's like the name of the gun that they've got like the little pistol thing? It's essentially the one that I still.
Shot?
Yes, I think it's that. It's essentially the one that I don't understand how you're meant to actually shoot it, and I've been playing it for 11 years. I still don't know what's the best way to do it, because I've seen people use it in multiplayer and completely nerf everyone, and I'm sat there thinking, what are you using on that? Because I don't know how you're supposed to shoot it.
You have to like take it quite slow, because if you like pew 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 pew, it just overheats way too quickly. It's kind of like the plasma weapons, but the Promethean ones, I think you've got to be a little more delicate with. Particularly the bolt shot, because again, if you just like pew 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 pew, you totally miss it, because the more you shoot it, the less accurate it becomes, I think.
That's good to know now in 2023. We should have known.
It's the same with
the
rifle as well. Like not the sniper rifle,
it's like the light rifle,
sort of machine gun thing.
Mm-hmm. And what
the hell it's called.
The suppressor.
Yeah, that's it. It's the same with that. Like if you've got to kind of like sort of like control you got to do it in like short controlled bursts. You can't like otherwise it just goes everywhere.
But yeah, after discussing this at great length, what's your like final thoughts on Halo 4?
Still really enjoy it. 11 odd years on. Even if I mean, again, it's the nitpicks that just I wouldn't say they've ruined it, but I think I would have liked the Didact to be introduced a lot earlier than he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes sense. You're on like the Forerunner planet that he is literally inhabiting. Kind of makes sense to introduce him pretty early on.
And yes,
aside from that, I wouldn't really say there's much else really. I mean, maybe I wouldn't say the AI, so to speak, because then again, like I'm just primarily playing on the harder difficulty, so usually I'm just running away from them, not running at them.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, I think it's generally a very, very well liked game for me personally. I mean, I know it is for you as well. And I don't know, it's still an awful lot of fun, even campaign wise, even though you like played it to death.
And we did many, many, many times.
Yeah, we did.
We played it to many deaths.
Yeah.
As it turns out. But yeah, that has been our thoughts on Halo 4. Nice fun one to discuss and to reminisce on really bad internet. Really awesome instant spawn kills and flood-ridden tanks that just chase you down hallways. Which, when you put it like that, that makes this game sound absolutely ridiculous and stupid.
It does a little bit.
Just like, what do you mean in this game you're getting chased by like a weird, like mold-ridden Spartan in a tank? Like, you don't know the half of it. He also has a claw for some reason. I never understood that.
So what was the custom map called? What was it called? Rabid Tank.
Rabid Tank.
Hifolo and the Rabid Tank.
Yeah, just Hifolo and the Rabid Tank. But yes, that has been our thoughts on Halo 4. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. We've got a ton of other episodes like this on the channel. Of course, we've got plenty of other Halo ones that we've discussed. As mentioned a few times, I don't really know if we'll do Halo 5. I might just scrap it and just skip onto Halo Infinite, which means we might have to co-op campaign Halo Infinite. I'd find that quite fun, even just a little bit.
And die in the makings very, very much.
There's
we're
one,
just terrible at video games.
There's one bit that I've done recently just on Heroic on my own, and I think it took me about 30 goes because I'm clearly a noob at this.
You went on Heroic, you wuss.
Mate, there's a reason for that.
It's either go big or go home, Rick.
Mate, there is a reason I didn't do Legendary yet. There's a reason.
I believe you.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be coming up in, I think it's December. I think it's our penultimate episode of the year, if I've got that one right. Next week, though, slightly different, because as ever, we are very good at making last minute changes to episodes. Dan's already smirking because he knows exactly what's coming. So, bit of background. Originally, I was thinking we could cover Exorcist 3 because there's a new Exorcist film out for some reason.
The Threexorcist.
Yeah, Threexorcist, whatever. Slight issue with that one. That's under the assumption that I actually think it's a good sequel, and that I actually watch it, which I have not done either. So I was kind of gearing up for that, and then Dan suddenly sends me a photo of a little game that he's downloading onto his computer, which is one I mentioned last year, and I didn't actually get around to finishing at that point. It was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. And I was sat there thinking, well, balls, we're gonna have to do an episode on this now. And I can remember just messaging you saying, can you be done in about 2 weeks? He's like, yeah.
Mate, I was done in 24 hours.
Yeah, he's had 31 hours clocked on this. I think I've had about 40 or 50, so we're getting pretty close. So, yes, next week, we're going to be taking a look at a bit of Lego Star Wars. Because...
oh, I can't wait.
So many mumbles. So many studs. So many unnecessary characters in that. Oh my god.
Just a few.
I have things to say. We will get to that. But yes, next week it'll be Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which I think will also be the newest game we've ever discussed on this. So
it will be, yeah.
Yeah. So you can look forward to that next week. Thank you very much for listening, as ever. And until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Ta-ta.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.